Hey, today in this video we will see how you can get started in web designing and become good at it in 2 to 3 months. First, to be honest, you won't become a pro in web designing in this time period, but you can learn all the basics and know enough to create beautiful templates and landing pages for your clients or for selling online. Web designing has a good demand these days. There are tons of brands who are trying to get their message out to their audience through their landing page and improve the user experience of their page. As a web designer, you will play a crucial role in helping these brands achieve their online goals. The field of web designing covers everything from designing a web page to SEO optimization, graphic designing, UI UX optimization, improving site speed, analytics, and much more. So I'll share a complete roadmap to learn web designing in today's video. I'll share all the resources you can look up to learn web designing, and also I'll show you some template designs for inspiration. So without any further ado, let's get started. So this is the roadmap to learn web designing. Let's look at all of these one by one. First, start by learning HTML, CSS and JavaScript. HTML, CSS and JavaScript, as you may already know, are web designing languages. With them, you can create and design templates to your liking. Learn all the basic HTML tags and then move on to CSS styling. It shouldn't take you much time to learn HTML and CSS. You can definitely get a good grasp of it within 3 to 4 weeks. Now that's just an approximate time. You might take longer than that. You will learn faster if you learn by creating small web pages than watching a whole 5 or 6 hour YouTube video. Let's dive into the basic things that you should know in HTML. After you are good with these basics, you can move on to the next. You can learn all the advanced styling side by side when you create projects. First, learn basic HTML structures. Learn what are elements and attributes and all those basic HTML terms. Learn how to add paragraphs, titles, images, headings, lists, tables, links, forms, inputs, and all those things in an HTML web page. Then you can move on to a little bit of styling. Learn how to use both inline CSS styling and linking a separate style sheet. You can learn HTML from YouTube videos, but I would recommend you to go and visit w3schools.com and learn it from their tutorial. It's a free tutorial with space to practice what you have learned. It's not a video course. They have these small articles explaining HTML concepts and an interface below that to practice what you have learned. You can run and view the output within their website. It wouldn't take you much time to learn HTML from this website. So to learn HTML, I would recommend W3 Schools. Now you can move on to CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is a style sheet language used in web design to control the layout and presentation of the web pages. It allows you to take your web page from this to this. The web page I showed just now uses Bootstrap also. Without it, the web page would look much less visually appealing. It will be just plain text and images placed one after another. CSS adds colors, alignment, and overall aesthetics to the elements on a web page. The visual appeal of all the websites you encounter while browsing is largely due to CSS. So, in CSS, you should learn these concepts. You can learn it from YouTube or from W3 Schools. W3 Schools also has a CSS tutorial. After learning CSS, you will be able to create and design web pages more effectively. In CSS, you will learn how to position different HTML elements, add colors, backgrounds, and display text in various typography styles. You will also learn how to add some cool animations like these into your web page. JavaScript is another language used in web designing. While HTML defines various elements on a web page and CSS designs them, JavaScript adds functionalities on the user's end. With JavaScript, you can make elements on your website respond to user interactions. It enables logical operations on our web page and allows for dynamic styling. That is, you can use JavaScript to manipulate your CSS code and change the appearance of elements based on the user interactions on your page. Here's an analogy for HTML, CSS and JavaScript. If our web page is like a car, HTML is like the car's skeleton, forming the basic structure and frame. CSS adds the paint and finishing touches, making the car look appealing with color, style and design. JavaScript is similar to the engine and mechanical parts, infusing the car with functionality, movement and interactive features. So I hope you understood how these three works together to function a web page. First, learn all basic JavaScript syntax and concepts like variables, arrays, assignments, data types, if-else condition, for loops, etc. Then, for interactive web designing, you should learn DOM manipulation. DOM manipulation allows you to change or modify HTML content and CSS styles dynamically. You can refer to W3 Schools for JavaScript tutorials as well. They provide JavaScript tutorials structured like a roadmap for your learning journey. If you encounter any difficulty in understanding a topic, You can also watch a YouTube video that explains the concept. There are a ton of JavaScript tutorials on YouTube. After all these, next you should learn responsive web designing. Responsive web designing involves the technique of building websites with strong foundations so that they are accessible across a wide range of browsing situations. If your web design is responsive, it will appear consistent in all devices like desktops, laptops, and smartphones. The design will be intact on all devices. For that, you should set the width of HTML elements and containers in your web design according to each device's screen size. The design of the page should move fluidly to fit all the device screens without having any issues, like shown here. It's all basically done in CSS and JavaScript, but it involves some more concepts. Responsive designing is a part of CSS. To master responsive designing, you should be thorough with CSS media queries, CSS grid layout, flexbox, etc. You will be using these techniques to make your website responsive on all devices. Responsive designing includes building designs that are compatible with all browsers, testing and debugging designs, etc. It is a concept in web designing to improve user experience. It's not a language or something. You might have seen these websites that load perfectly on desktop devices, but their design breaks in smartphones. They are not optimized for small screen devices. These websites give a bad user experience. Web designing is all about providing users with a good experience while using the interface. If you want to dive deep into responsive designing to enhance the user experience, explore progressive enhancement. It's a principle of starting with a rock solid foundation and then adding enhancements to it if you know a certain user visiting can handle the improved experience. Take Gmail for example. If you have a slower internet connection, the user interface of Gmail will be different. Fewer design elements will be loaded in Gmail if you are using in a slower internet connection. This is to make the UI respond faster even in slow internet connection. You will only need to watch some YouTube videos to understand the concept of responsive designing. Find a tutorial that demonstrates the complete process of building a web page and optimizing it for different screens. Next, learn about CSS frameworks like Bootstrap, which can help you speed up your web designing projects. There are a couple of CSS frameworks that are really helpful while creating projects: Bootstrap, Tailwind CSS, Semantic UI, and a lot more. I recommend learning Bootstrap. It provides all basic UI components and they are responsive. If you are using this library, it is easy for you to make your website responsive. They provide classes that you can add to your HTML to set widths for different device screens. So you don't have to write media queries in CSS for each device width by yourself. You can use the one written in the library. Here, you can follow these instructions on their website to download the library. Tailwind CSS is also one such library, except they don't provide the components. They provide classes and styles so that you don't need to write vanilla CSS, that is plain CSS. Bootstrap comes with a set of pre-styled responsive mobile-first components that possess a definite UI kit. Also, Bootstrap has a shallower learning curve. If you want to just get started and build some websites, Bootstrap is great. If you want high customization on the user interface, Tailwind CSS is great. Also, Tailwind is not entirely free. For getting access to some of their pre-designed UI components, you will need to subscribe to their plan. On the other hand, Bootstrap is entirely free. Use these libraries only after gaining a solid understanding of designing and responsiveness through manual CSS. While creating landing pages for your clients, you can utilize these libraries for saving time. There is nothing much to learn in these libraries. You can just look up the documentation for the classes and code related to the components. Now, after covering all these concepts, you can start creating real projects to sharpen your skills. Go out and look at different websites that people have created. You can take design inspirations from there. There is a site called Dribble where people post their design works. You can look for web designs and take inspirations from there. Look at how different sections are arranged in a web page and also the content that they display. Understanding the structure and content presentation of various websites will enhance your design skills and inspire creativity in your own projects. For example, the initial section of every landing page often features a slogan or pitch accompanied by an image. Alternatively, you might encounter pages with changing background images and overlaid text. Understand these design shades to enhance your own creative process. Understand how different sections of a page are arranged. Like the first section of every landing page will be the section where some slogan or pitching words are said with an image, like I said before. Or there will be an image that changes and text is placed above it. Understand these design shades to enhance your own creative process. So that's all. Now it's time to sharpen your skills by creating projects. With these skills, you can create almost any basic website template. All that limits you is your creativity, and with practice, you can get that too. Practice creating web designs, and like I said before, look at different websites and how they have arranged their content. So that's all about creating projects. After covering all these topics, you should start creating projects. Also try out some animation libraries while creating projects. We'll be talking about that in a minute. Next thing you have to look up to is SEO. Learn a little bit SEO and page speed optimizations. When you create web designs for brands, they want those pages to be ranked on Google, and also it should load really fast. Website loading speed is a great factor that affects user experience. SEO is search engine optimization. As the name suggests, it deals with optimizing web pages for search engines like Google so they can rank higher in it. You don't need to go really deep into it. You should know all the basic things like adding proper canonical tags, image alt attributes, use of keywords around the page, title optimization, headings, etc. You don't need to go deep and learn all of it, but it is included as a part of web designing. Page speed optimizations are also important. One of the main elements of a good web design is user experience. User experience won't be good if the website takes a lot of time to load. So you have to learn how to optimize all the JavaScript and CSS files, and also the images and video files and all other resources used in the page so that the web page loads faster. Google Page Speed Insights is a tool that you can use to check web page loading speed. Apart from the total page loading time, they will also show you the performance score of the website. You can see all the elements that slows the loading of your page. They will also show you the time it took for loading different resources that are used in your web page. SEO improves the ranking of the web page in Google and other search engines. Page speed optimizations improves the user experience. So that's all about page speed optimizations and SEO. Now let's move on to the next. Now it is time for you to expand your designing skills. Animation makes a web page more interactive and interesting. A page with moving images, content that pops up when you hover on it, etc. are much more interactive than a static web page with a bunch of text. There are different animation libraries in CSS and JavaScript to help you add animations to your web page. In CSS, you will learn how to animate elements to move, rotate, etc. using keyframes. But creating an animation from scratch is time consuming and is not feasible when you are working on a client's web page. So you can use different animation libraries in CSS and get the job done. You can look up some of the popular animation libraries like animate.css or anim.js. They have a collection of animations that you can add to your web page to make your website much more interactive and improve user experience. I'm not saying you need to learn all these before you start creating web pages and templates. You can learn these along the way. To create a template or landing page, all you need is HTML, CSS and JavaScript and a framework like Bootstrap. All these extra things you can pick up on the way. You can try out these things while you are making projects. You don't need to learn about these libraries. When you have a design idea in your mind, you can search and find all these things that can help and use it. So you can add different animations to your site using the libraries I mentioned above. These will make your website much more interactive and interesting. So that's all about animations. Now let's move on to the next. That is learn front-end JavaScript frameworks. Front-end development and web design often overlap, and having skills in both these areas can contribute to creating more dynamic and interactive web experiences. To take your web design to the next level, to go from designing landing pages and templates to front-end development, you need to learn some modern front-end JavaScript frameworks like React or Vue. These frameworks goes a little beyond the area of web designing and into coding websites and more into technical things, but they are helpful in creating fast-loading web pages that look like an Android app. If done right, websites created using these frameworks will give the user a feeling of using an Android app while it's actually a web page. Everything will load before the blink of an eye. If you press a button or something on the page, the resulting change in the page will appear instantaneously without taking any time to load like normally. So learning these might be helpful. Not necessary, but it's good. Now let's move on to the next. Now let's move on to graphic designing. If you know graphic designing, you can create images and illustrations for your web design by yourself. You won't need to search for open source images online. Also, you will have the freedom to create any type of illustration that suits the web design if you know how to create it. For graphic designing, You will need to learn how to use tools like Adobe Illustrator, Inkscape or Sketch, etc. These tools allows you to create illustrations easily. As I said earlier, you don't need to learn all this before you start creating web designs. You can learn this along the way. If you know graphic designing, it's better. So that was all about graphic designing. So here we come to an end. So this was the complete roadmap to web designing. Hope this video helped you to get started with web designing. Follow the roadmap I shared to get good at web designing within 2 to 3 or maybe 4 months. I have put the link to the roadmap shared in this video in the description. You can check that out if you want. Web designing is a profitable job if you have the right skill and creativity. Especially for freelancing, it's a good market. Web designers often charge rates ranging from $30 to $85 per hour. Building a basic business website, including some content creation, design, and development, can cost you anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. As you can see, it's a valuable skill with substantial earning potential, so learning it will be profitable. Also, I would like to announce that we are working on a web designing tool. We'll be releasing it soon. We'll inform you guys more about it later. So that was all in today's video. Hope it's helpful. Subscribe to Blogger Score for more content like this. Like this video and share it with your friends who are interested. See you in the next video.